Welcome back to Between Sundays, the podcast where Christians are trying to figure things out where most of life happens. I'm Bobby.
And I'm Justice.
And today we are talking about Barnabas, just a good old character in the Bible today.
Not mistaken with Barnabas, which I did.
Not Barnabas, which you said many times as we were referencing this episode. But no, just a little different today. Normally we have kind of our title or our phrase or anything like that, but just Barnabas. We're going to talk about that thought today, but for good reason. As we came off of a unbelievable Youth Sunday this past Sunday at our church, getting ready for kind of summer conference, all that stuff, and so it was an unbelievable day, something that we do once a year for our church or for our students. Of course, we go to the Arise Youth Conference up in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Shout out Arise and CT Townsend. So maybe he'll give us a little discount if we shout him out on the podcast. No, I'm just joking. But no, unbelievable conference. Has changed the course of our student ministry in a lot of ways over the last several years of being able to go. We've seen students saved. We've seen lives surrendered. We've seen God work in some big ways through our students. And so one of the exciting things for us that, of course, we do every year is our Youth Sunday, just a chance for people to be able to see what's going on in our student ministry. Man, our teens did a great, knocked those songs out of the park at the service, did a good job. We threw some of our teens up in the choir that day, and we, obviously we do ask for the church to help sponsor things like that, but was just a great day to see God move and our church get behind our students, and so much so that Justice and I were talking, and we were like, hey, let's just continue. We had kind of one of our other episodes lined up for today. I think it was talking about kind of loneliness or something like that. We're like, hey, let's just go after or talk about Barnabas today. Yeah. And so I'm looking forward to it. And did you take your whistle off there? Make sure you didn't blow your Awana whistle.
Yeah, I've got a Awana tonight, so I forgot that was on there.
Justice runs the games.
I help run the games.
You help run the games.
I'm assistant to the game director.
You're assistant to the game director. Not the assistant game director.
Nope. Assistant to the game director. Shout out Alex.
Shout out Alex, which does a great job. Man of mystery.
He is.
Man of few words, but they're important words when he says it. So, mostly because he's giving the points out. But yeah, I was wondering earlier, was you going to count to like 5 when we got the episode going or something?
No, like that? I don't have to do that in here.
Just to make sure that we were good. No,
I do when there's 60 kids, so I have to do that.
That's key. That's key. You can always tell the adults that grew up in Awana compared to that didn't, because when Brother Alex or Brother Mike start counting, the adults get quieter faster than the kids do. And then you got me that didn't grow up in Awana. I'm just over here blabbering my mouth away and all that stuff. And everybody's staring like, shut your mouth right now. He's at 4. Like, you just need to stop talking.
Do you know what happens when he hits 5?
Yeah, just the trumpet sound that Jesus is coming back when 5 gets said. No, it is funny. You can without a doubt, you can tell the Awana. When we had field day the other day.
Really?
For the school, they were running Awana games for the elementary field day. And he started counting, and you could tell the Awana kids. Oh, it's like, night and day difference. Yeah. 2 ways, counting and cup stacking.
Yep.
Like, cup stacking come out, like the Awana kids, they were just like, you know that meme of the guy standing behind the tree and he's doing like this right here, where he's like, they put it. That was the Awana kids when they saw the stacking cups come out. They were like, oh yeah, this is our time right here. So it was so funny.
That's awesome
to watch them. So, but anyway, enough about Awana. And even though great program,
if
your church has it, get your kids in there. If not, we know a good place that has Awana.
Exactly.
For you to come check it out.
Exactly.
And you'll see Justice.
There you go.
It's a twofer. You get to see the podcast host over here running games, and your kids get to run around, and they go to bed a lot faster after that. So, but Barnabas, yesterday we were talking about that, of course, in our Youth Sunday, and we kind of want to cover the other side of the coin of this talk today. It was kind of, talking with you a little bit about it. We were talking about through that service of being a Barnabas, kind of a challenge to our church, and we were talking before we hit record today for the episode, and was talking about outside of people and pledging, which we're thankful for. People that were coming up just saying, "Hey, how can we pray for your students?" I had a guy come up and he said, "Hey, can I just have the first names of your students?" He said, "I just want to, me and my wife want to pray for them." And I was like, "Man, that is so awesome right there," because I mean, I hate to say it, there's a lot of churches that don't have that kind of support, especially when it comes to teens. Teens, and they're like, "Oh, they're here again," you know. And so, we were talking about being a Barnabas and why Barnabas was so crucial in the life of eventually Paul, but Saul as he was converted, and how God got a hold of his life, and especially as he was starting out and the disciples didn't even believe what God had done in his life. And if it wasn't for Barnabas stepping up and saying, "Hey, look, I know you got reason to be scared because of what he used to do, but I've seen what God has done and what God had done in his life." And so today, kind of the flip side of that coin of not being a Barnabas, but really finding a Barnabas, and what to do and how to go look for that Barnabas that God has for our life.
Yeah, no, it's something that I hear a lot of teenagers talk about of, man, I would love to go talk to this person. I'd love to go spend time with this person. And it's not something that's impossible. It's something that we put, I think, limitations on ourselves sometimes. Or we, being blunt and honest, put a higher standard on some people than what we should.
Yeah.
And really growing up, there was always men in our church that I looked up to.
Yeah.
But was always hesitant to want to waste their time or limit their opportunity to invest in me.
Yeah.
Whether that be, kind of excluding myself from things or, kind of backing away into the shadows. And so, there's a difference in finding someone that you would like to be invested in by, and then, this unrealistic expectation that this person's just going to magically find me and, put their arm around me and walk this life with me.
Yeah.
And really, your Barnabas, and even kind of what we were talking about before, maybe we should start hitting record a little bit sooner than what we are.
Yeah, I
we
know.
Talk about some good stuff before we start.
I know, but the getting ready for the episode.
But even we were talking about John Mark and Barnabas being in Paul's life for a season, and having that investment for a season. I think that's a lot of times what we see with people that, of course, there's lifelong people that you become friends with, but really as teenagers of saying, I'm in this place and I'm wanting to get to the next level, or I'm wanting to increase my walk with Christ, or I'm really wanting to make an impact. What does that look like? And oftentimes it looks like finding a partner and tag team in life together.
Yeah.
And you really need to, in a lot of cases, make yourself a person worth being invested in by somebody. You can't sit on the pew and cross your arms and wonder why no one's investing in you, when in reality, a lot of times it takes work to be that person that gets invested in.
Yeah.
And it's a two-way street there. It's being invested in, and being a Barnabas and receiving a Barnabas is work.
Yeah.
And it's not something that is just, cookie cutter, and it's the same for everybody's situation. There's people that invested in me that I sought after because maybe their story wasn't the same as my story, but they had gone through similar problems that I was going through, and gleaning from those people, and really trying to go out of my way to be around them was really something that they took note of and were able to do really what was on their heart, their burden, to invest in people, but giving that person the opportunity to.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we want to talk about today, of being someone worth investing in.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is we should strive to be a Barnabas eventually for somebody.
Sure.
but we can't be one until we've been around one.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. There's a lot of people that go into this Christian walk that they have, and they kind of want to jump straight to being that person for somebody,
Yeah.
but have never had somebody pour into them. I think kind of a big thing for me that was a reality check for me, and that was, I remember years ago, Brother Mark was talking about discipleship here for our church, and you remember when that
Yeah.
that whole season
Oh,
kicked up. I mean, it was our goal. I mean, our
Yeah.
goal so big for that year for our church. And I'm sitting back and I was like, Lord, give me a discipleship group. I need to disciple people. And all of a sudden he's like, yeah, but you haven't been discipled, you know, and you need to find somebody to pour into you. And I remember we started doing some discipling as a staff and things like that. And I was thankful for that because there were things that I saw through it that I was realizing I would have never been able to pour into somebody effectively if I hadn't had that poured into me.
Sure.
And I have such a high respect for people that I look at guys that I've had that are friends that I've had in my life that maybe could have gone straight into, I look at like ministry, maybe they could have gone straight into pastoring, but they chose to sit under a pastor. Yeah. They chose to be mentored or have a Barnabas in their life to prepare them to be that for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is very much having that balance. Now, on the side of what we're talking about today, you may say, well, how do I get to that place of finding a Barnabas? How do I get to that place of having that person in my life? Well, you said it perfectly earlier. Stop just waiting for him to show up.
Yeah.
God's got some. Now, can God do it that way? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is the reality that God can do as he pleases. I mean, we could open the door to the studio when we're done with this episode and a Barnabas for somebody be standing there.
Yeah.
Is that the reality though, or the common theme of what? No. And so it's one of those things of, okay, God, if you've got somebody out there for me, then I need to find them.
Yeah.
I need to put a little effort in this thing to go out there and find somebody. And so, again, just put yourself in the right places where a Barnabas can find you. We were, again, like you said, we need to hit record. We were talking about teens before, and I've dealt with it through the years of teens saying, I don't feel connected to people, and I just don't feel like I have a place. Well, act like you want to be in that place.
Yeah.
Act like you want to be around people.
Yeah.
I don't know about anybody else, but if I see somebody over in the corner just looking like they just, stick in the mud, I'm not going to be just like, yeah, let me go over and talk that, I mean, it's just one of those things like be approachable.
Yeah.
Put yourself in those places where a Barnabas can find you and feel like, well, like you said, somebody worth investing in.
Well, you think about when Paul was found by Barnabas, he was taking the next step in his journey.
Yeah.
And, you can't stay stagnant and wonder why no one's helping you up to the next level.
Yeah.
And really, I think the Lord puts those people in your life when you start to say, Lord, I'm going to step out on something. I'm going to step out on faith, and I'm going to take on this problem, or I'm going to trust in you in this situation. And really, that's when Barnabas, hits the scene of saying, okay, he's wanting to do something, and I'm going to be able, maybe not drag him up the stairs, but I'm able to help him up the next step and the next step. Because you got to remember, your Barnabas is there, your mentor is there, your person that you're looking up to is there, not to keep you the same as you are,
Yeah,
but to make you a better person.
Yeah.
And if all you want to be is the same as you were yesterday, it gets to be, for a Barnabas, like watering a dead plant.
Mm-hmm.
You just, I'm pouring into this person. I'm pouring into this person. And eventually you say, Lord, that Barnabas is going to say, Lord, help them, because I can't do anything else with them. Because it takes work. It takes an effort. And, there's several guys that we have in our youth group that, not like I'm anything special, but I go out of my way to be around them because they'll go out of their way to be around me.
Yeah.
And I know it's the same for you. Of there's a difference in me watering a dead plant, or there's a difference in me trying to drag someone along. And I think Barnabas really saw the potential in Paul and said, this guy is starting to do something for the Lord, and I don't want him to stop for any reason.
Yeah.
And that's really when he starts dragging him along, and we see this progression that's rather quick because he has someone to help bear his burdens and kind of glean from. And like I said, it's work, but it's work for both sides. It's not work just for the mentor. And I think sometimes we forget that when we're sitting around waiting for someone to invest in us.
Yeah.
Is be worth investing in.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody. I truly don't know anybody that can say, Lord, with an honest heart and say, Lord, I want to take the next step. I want to do something for you. And the Lord not reveal to you a Barnabas that you should go after to help you get to the next level. The Lord didn't save you for you to stay the same way. He saved you for you to continue your walk and continue your growth. And the Barnabas is there for the growth, not for the staying the same.
Yeah.
And so really paying attention to, is the reason I feel like no one's investing in me, the reason I feel this way, is it because I'm not trying to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm trying to I want a friend instead of a Barnabas.
Yeah.
I think that's big takeaways from that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, isolation's never going to bring a connection.
No.
And so if we always stay to ourselves, if we're always just, to ourselves, not putting ourselves out there, not kind of stepping out in faith a little bit. I mean, this walk that we have in Christ is not always a comfortable thing. Sometimes we've got to get out of our comfort zone a little bit. But it's sometimes in those uncomfortable moments that we see God work in some of the biggest ways. And I believe in this case of right here, of maybe finally showing you who that Barnabas is that can help you in your life. But if we can be okay with just staying isolated and to ourselves and things like that, then we're never going to find that connection.
Sure.
We're never going to find that community to help us. I remember, again, those guys that I a few years ago now, when I started one of the first discipleship groups with the guys in the school with TCA. And again, it was an uncomfortable thing. And you knew there was going to be those ones that would talk from day one. I mean, no doubt. And then we started seeing guys that were a little standoffish. It was funny. They were with us, but still isolated, just kind of off in the corner. And little by little, you started seeing some of those guys kind of step out of their comfort zone a little bit and talk or read a journal entry or things like that. And it was amazing what they had to say. And it was amazing how God used that. And what I'm getting through all that, is just that place of, it's not always going to be the most comfortable thing to do, but it's a necessary thing.
No.
Finding your Barnabas, I mean, you look at what happened to Paul through all of this. I'm sure that wasn't a comfortable experience of what all happened, but yet in his discomfort, in not knowing what would happen next, but still, like you said earlier, stepping towards what God had for them, he was able to find that. And like you said, I wonder, could it be that we're missing out on our Barnabases because we're not continuing to take the steps towards God like we need to?
Yeah.
If he had just stopped journeying down that road, or if he had turned around and gone back, he would have missed out on Barnabas. He would have missed out on that help that God would have given him. So maybe are we, because we want to isolate, or because we're afraid or uncomfortable, are we missing out on those connections that God has for us, that I'll say could come out of nowhere and be somebody we never thought it would be, but it could be that person to encourage us or help us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and we was kind of talking through all that and looking at, again, kind of what it takes to find that Barnabas. One of the biggest things that I think I was talking a little bit about in the youth Sunday is the potential that's there. That was one of the biggest things that Barnabas saw in him was the potential. And so it's one of those things I would challenge you, if be visible, put yourself out there in a way for somebody to see the potential that's there. I look at well, I mean, we look at Casey that sat on the couch with us a few times and things like that. I think one of the biggest things that has, I say, drawn kind of both of us at times to, in seasons, work with him and things like that, is seeing that potential that's in them and being willing to pour into that. And I would say the same for others. If you feel like there's something that God has for you, be willing to allow somebody to see that in you and try to draw that out of you in your life. And again, I believe there's a lot of people that want to pour into somebody else, like that guy that come up and said, "Hey, can I have their names to pray for them?" I believe people want to do that, but we've got to be willing to let them see us for who we are and see the be transparent with people, be, again, out of our comfort zone. A lot of this stems with what are we doing on our end?
Yeah.
Because so much we can blame everything else as to why we don't have a Barnabas.
Yeah.
But really, the matter is are we starting with ourselves as to why we don't have it? And could it be that God's got somebody in store, but we're not willing to do what's necessary on our side of things?
Yeah. That's something that we forget sometimes, is that Barnabas was still human.
Yeah.
And there's going to be things that you and I might not see in somebody that, the Lord sees and is there. That doesn't mean that they are any less than, or we shouldn't invest in those people. But it's a matter of, we think a lot of times, because I want to get closer to God, or I'm wanting to take that next step, or I'm wanting to do something ministry wise, that I should have just arrived. And the heartbreaking part of that is sometimes people expect to be, because they have an expectation, they expect everyone else to have this expectation of them, and they try to grow faster than what they're able to. And there is nobody that I know of that is in a ministry position, whether that be your youth pastor, your Sunday school teachers, your dad. One of my biggest Barnabas in my life was my dad.
Yeah.
There's nobody like that in any of those situations where you can't go to them and say, "Hey, what can I do for XYZ?" or I'm thinking about making this decision. What do you think? And really getting their opinion on it. You don't want, your Barnabas doesn't want to have to chase you down every time they're wanting you to grow.
Yeah.
But sometimes we forget, when we are isolating ourselves, or we're thinking we should be somewhere that we're not, really forgetting to reflect on that Barnabas, one, is human, but I'm also human.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I see a lot within young people, even when we go to FCA within the public schools, and talking to my friends that do other youth things. It's almost a something that's crept in of teens saying, "I'm all alone," and having leaders saying, "I'm here to help," and forgetting that the Barnabas is there to help you, not make you into something you're not.
Yeah.
And being a Barnabas isn't trying to, with any of the guys in the youth group, your goal isn't to make them look like you and grow up and be a youth pastor.
Yeah.
Your goal is to bring them up to be able, ready, and capable for whatever the Lord has for them.
Yeah.
And we have an expectation of, this is what God's doing in my life, and this is what I'm going to become. And we have our roadmap planned out already. And God is just wanting that Barnabas in your life, and you've neglected or you've put off that person because you know what the finish line looks like.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that sometimes we forget, that everybody's human and we don't know what the next step is for any of us. But finding that person to help you get closer is what that person's job is. And I don't know of anybody, I don't know of a dad, I don't know of a youth pastor, I don't know of a pastor. I have several friends that, one I think of right now, that was looking at coming to Bible college and decided to stay home, and his pastor took him under his wing, and I thank God for that.
Yeah.
And really is helping him a whole lot more than he could get helped anywhere else. But I don't know of any of those people that aren't willing to be an investor.
Yeah.
But again, if you're putting your money into something, you're going to want some type of outcome.
Yeah.
Not just, continue losing.
Yeah.
And I don't know of anybody that's investing or has a heart to invest in people that's not okay with taking a loss, again, because we're all human, but at the same time not hunting that person down to invest in them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know I referenced that a lot, but I mean, those discipleship groups, I told those guys from the beginning, I said, this is my heart. This is what I want to help you do. This is your choice. Like, I'm going to be here this day at this time.
Yeah.
And if you're here, great. If you're not, I'm not chasing you.
Yeah.
Because again, I know my heart, I know my desire, but like you just said a second ago, I can't make them me, nor you can't make anybody you, and they're not meant to be that way.
Yeah.
It's just saying, okay, I see something there. Let me help you either discover it or develop it or have confidence in it that this is something God is allowing you to do, and this could be a great thing for your life. You look through this account in Scripture where we see Barnabas in his life and helping him in his life when he goes to the disciples, and of course they're fearful of letting him in and being around them. Barnabas never once talked about the things that he had done just while Paul was following him. Mm-hmm. He told him, he said, I've seen him preach. I've seen him do this. Yeah. And, one thing that was I would say to people is, he was still doing things. He was like, and again, referencing what you said earlier, he was going after what God had for him. And Paul was just nudging him along, helping him be in the right place or be around, or even just witnessing what God was doing. That's one thing that I say is such an encouragement about somebody like a Barnabas, is just he stood up for him. Mm-hmm. He just when they were all afraid, he said, "Hey, look, I know you're scared, but I've seen him do this. Yeah. He did these things. He just went to bat for him." And how much would that encourage other Christians, just knowing that they've got somebody in their corner to go to bat for them? But again, through all of that, Barnabas never brought up anything that he had accomplished. Yeah. But he very much so talked about what God was doing in that person's life. And, like you were saying earlier, it ain't about making people into us or some cookie cutter thing. It's us, taking a chance on somebody, seeing the potential that's in them and saying, hey, look, I'm not doing this for you, but I'll help you do this. Yeah. I'll be there. I'll encourage you. Yeah. I may have to tell you something, hey, let's probably not do it that way. Sure. But at the same time, again, if I see, like today, I mean, seeing our teens and people working in or how God's working in their lives, it ain't saying, hey, look at man, Bobby did a good job
Yeah.
getting them to that place. It ain't about me.
Yeah.
It's every bit about what God's doing in their life. And best I can do is just be a Barnabas, be a witness. Say, hey, look, I know you know some of these teens. I know they can be, and that's what I was saying. I know they can be knuckleheads at times, but I'm here to witness and tell you I've seen what God's doing in their life.
Exactly.
And that's it. That is what's so, I say, awesome being on that side of the coin of being a Barnabas. But going back to this side that we're talking about, I look at my life and I can see the people that went to bat for me.
Yeah.
And I can see the people that took a chance on me and encouraged me and told others, say, hey, look, I know he's made some mistakes, but I've seen what God's doing in his life, and it's for real. And God's doing something, and just nudging me and encouraging me along the way. And those people, I mean, I would dare to say, like you said, my dad's been a huge one. Like you were talking about your dad.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be sitting here today if it wasn't for those people that took, knowing it could be a loss, but took that chance on me in life and encouraged me along the way.
Yeah, that's good.
So I mean, it's those people are so influential, and it breaks my heart to know that there's so much other potential that are out there. That's out there, whether it be students, whether it be just, I mean, adults even in the church, that are missing out on what God has for them simply because they don't have that Barnabas in their life. And I'll say this, not because God didn't give them one, but because they haven't done what's necessary to find that Barnabas that can help them for their life.
Yeah.
It'd be different if God didn't have us one.
Sure.
But to know we missed out on a Barnabas because we didn't do what's necessary, I'd hate to know that there's part of my life that could have been different if I just put a little effort into finding that person that could have helped me.
Yeah. No, it's definitely something whenever I look back on my life of saying, man, I wouldn't be who I am today without those people, without my dad, without my youth pastor, and really thinking of the same people that had the same opportunities to be around them the same amount of time I was. I think about my dad a lot of times whenever I think about people investing, is my dad was one of those guys that was okay with taking the loss no matter who it was. And he took a lot of losses, but the ones that stuck around really did something.
Yeah.
And of course, it goes back to what we said earlier. You being a Barnabas isn't forcing someone to do anything. It's you having the same goal, which is get closer to Christ.
Yeah.
And that's what the goal is.
Yeah.
It was never Barnabas's job to make him look like him or talk like him or dress like him. It was Barnabas's desire to see Paul grow closer to the Lord.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, when looking for your Barnabas, don't look for someone that has the status you want, or the house you want, or the car you want, or the possessions you want, if they can't back up getting you or wanting you to get closer to Christ.
Yeah.
That should be desire number one.
Yeah.
There's the teens that we hang out with. The desire number one is get them closer to the Lord.
Yeah.
And really finding peace, knowing that my Barnabas cares about me, but my Barnabas cares more that, I'm right with the Lord.
Yeah.
And I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Because there's plenty of people that we could invest in that wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But it's the ones that do care is the ones that you're okay with the late nights and the early mornings, and you're okay with the weird questions and going out to eat, and you're okay with that because they're wanting it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, again, and there's a lot we could say about this, and a lot of places to go with
Mhm.
it. But I mean, in a nutshell, I'll say it like this: there's no dead on 1-2 step program
Yeah.
of finding a Barnabas. I think the biggest thing is just having the heart to start,
Yeah.
just to say, you know what, Lord, I'm gonna start doing what I can to and I say find. I'm careful at times using that word. I'd almost say it more like this: getting to the place of letting God help you see your Barnabas,
Yeah.
notice your Barnabas. Because
Yeah.
I think if we're not careful, and the reason I say this, I even say this in on the dating side of things, like I didn't find Heather, God brought her to me.
Mhm.
I think we can apply the same in this.
Well, revealing your
Yeah,
Barnabas. Yeah.
great. I love that word, revealing your Barnabas, because we can find the wrong people.
Yes, we can.
So we can find another guy named Barnabas that's not the right Barnabas. So, but you're
Thank
right.
God you didn't find him and not Heather.
Yeah, or Barabbas. So, but revealing our Barnabas. I
Yeah.
love that word. I think that's a great thing. But it's just got to be saying, all right, Lord, I'm gonna start. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna God open my eyes. God, whatever you got to do,
Yeah.
reveal my Barnabas. Help me to see that one that you've got for my life. That's gonna help me. Because here's the thing: yes, Barnabas wasn't random, right?
Mhm.
God placed him there at that moment. But if Saul's heart was not in the right place, he still would have missed out on it.
Yeah.
So again, God will do his part of it.
Yeah.
God will, in a supernatural way, I truly believe,
Sure.
place your Barnabas at the right place at the right time. We've got to be ready for it, though.
Yep.
Again, going back to Heather, I believe absolutely God, in a supernatural way, put her in the right place at the right time for me to meet her. But the 6 to 8 months of what God had to do to get my heart in the right place, to notice that that's who God had for me,
Yeah.
that was on my side of things.
Yeah.
So again, God will do his part, but what are we willing to do?
Sure.
What steps are we willing to take? Here's the thing: if nothing else, Saul at least had to get started down that road.
Yeah.
If he had never started going down the road, he never had that moment, and God would have never revealed who his Barnabas was.
Yeah.
If nothing else, is there a road we need to start walking down to get to that place of God revealing that Barnabas to us and seeing who that could be for our life? Again, thank God for what he does for us, but it is a relationship still.
Yep.
There's still some effort that we've got to
Yep.
put into it to get out of it the fullest, that God has for our life. And I want to remind you of this verse. I was talking about it earlier, and is Proverbs 18:24, and it just simply it says this, that a man that hath friends must show himself friendly. God's going to put people in your life, but you got to get to that place where you can receive those people in your life, where God has something for you. And again, you never know. God may have your Barnabas out there. God does have your Barnabas out there, but what are we willing to do for that person to step into our life?
Yeah, no, you can't. I was looking up the verse of, you can't desire something and not ask Christ for it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times any of problems that we have, or problems that teens come to us and say, I'm feeling this. Well, have you talked to Christ about it?
Yeah.
Have you prayed about it first? And I think it goes back to, sometimes I think about whenever I was a teenager, really saying, Lord, would you give me someone that I can look up to when I don't feel like I have anybody to look up to? And it wasn't because I wanted someone to necessarily tend to my needs. I wanted someone to help me grow closer to the Lord.
Yeah.
And he always did.
Yeah.
And my encouragement would be, if you feel like I don't have anybody that's investing, ask the Lord for that person.
Yeah.
Ask the Lord again to reveal that person to you.
Yeah.
I'm saying, you know, what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
And I believe he'll answer that.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, kind of my ending challenge with this being a Saul in that, I know we keep saying Saul and Paul, but being a Saul in that scenario is tough. But being a Barabbas, I just said it. I knew I was trying to make it the whole episode.
We
I was
almost got to the
there. Being a Barnabas is sometimes some of the most exhausting, hardest work you'll ever do.
Yeah.
Of pouring your heart into somebody. And so my encouraging part for you, the listeners, this week is take time this week out of your normal schedule, out of the normal things that you do, and ask the Lord every day, Lord, give me someone that I can look up to.
Yeah.
Give me someone that has a heart for seeing me grow closer to you. The Lord, there's no reason the Lord wouldn't answer that prayer.
Yeah.
And really when you ask that, I find myself sometimes getting the answer that is, you've already got that person. This is who they are. And the Lord revealing that person to you. And if the Lord reveals that person to you, send them a text message this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, give them a phone call. It is the desire of everyone. I know this is your heart. When investing in people, you want to know that they're taking to heart what you're trying to get through to them.
Absolutely.
And some of the most encouraging text messages and phone calls I've ever gotten, letters I've gotten, is just someone saying, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah.
And I would do it every life over again.
Yeah.
For the one person that says, you know, I see what you're doing for me.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm not where I used to be. And on top of that, I'm going to go and invest in somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you invested in me.
Yeah.
Because we're all byproducts of someone being invested in.
Yeah.
You know, my dad wasn't able to invest in me until he was invested in by somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And when you invest in somebody, you may not get earthly riches. A lot of times it'll take away earthly riches. But the rewards in heaven are going to be worth it all.
Yeah.
And don't lay, as a encouragement to the Barnabases out there, you know, don't be weary in well doing. Remember, this isn't home, and really be striving to put Christ where he belongs. Number one.
Absolutely. Well, guys, listen, your Barnabas is out there, and God has them in store. Biggest thing I'd hate for us is to miss out on those. I love what you said at the end. You know, sometimes it's people that we've already got in our life. We just got to let God reveal them. Mm-hmm. And so don't miss out on those Barnabases. I almost said Barabbas. Simply because we're not willing to ask God to show us who they are. Yeah. And if God's giving you that person, be thankful. You never know what life could be like with or without them. And so when we do have them, we need to appreciate them. So guys, we're praying for y'all. We hope you find your Barnabas. And as you learn and grow, we hope you can be that Barnabas for somebody else.
Absolutely.
And we hope you have a great day. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Appreciate y'all.